Now that we've covered the basic concept of widgets, let's talk about another important idea, which is frames. While the widgets are sitting on the artboard while you're doing the design is great, and you can very quickly switch into the play mode and interact with them and do some basic troubleshooting of what you want to link them to. These widgets are not really visible in anywhere else. So if you want to see these widgets and operate these interface through like a web browser or our standalone grid viewer application, everything must live inside a frame. So how you can create a frame, there is a quick shortcut button here. You can then create a frame. Otherwise, you can right click and there is a frame option there as well. So great that we have some frames, and you can then just drag this around and resize this frame. Click on that and you have access to the arrows, and then you can resize that frame. And you can then select a bunch of these widgets down, select these widgets, and I can then move all of these inside the frame and we can then work with them. And so this frame is then now viewable by somewhere else. And you can very quickly play around with that frame by clicking on this button here. And we can then see that this is now loading and I'm interacting with this frame. And the widgets here will then behave exactly how you would on elsewhere as well. So for example, if we have a web viewer, you can see that basically any viewer objects, you will need to select what we call a home frame. So basically the frame that we're starting off when someone is first interacting with it. So now that we have this, then we can go into here and we can then actually open up the browser window. And if I just move that over into here, you can then see here that this is interacting with that as well. Great. So that is then how you will actually be able to have access to these frames and be interacting them through a web browser or a standalone application as well. Now that we are aware of the frame objects, the frame objects actually also provide some additional functionalities other than just framing how all of your widgets actually are laid out and where they're placed and so on. There are some frame objects that actually do what we call auto layouts. So if we right click under frame, you can see that there are grid layouts, there's horizontal, there's vertical layouts. By default, basically, the default frame is a flexible one where you can just place them anywhere that you like. So let's, for example, do a vertical one. And I can just bring these, a few of these status widgets out. And I can then just actually place them in here. And you can then now start to see that the auto layouts will actually automatically sort of resize or rescale these widgets within its defined area, and then sort of add the necessary padding that is needed so that all of these are nice and equally spaced. And that is a nice way to just sort of define a nice little group. You can then move this around. You can then actually also place this frame inside another frame. And so then you can then have a nice little area here that you can then, that they're nicely equal space. And then if you need to add another widget here, so let's just say I duplicate that one. And now this one, instead of linking to the VLC, I'm linking to the grid viewer, and then see these are nicely equally spaced, and you can just keep adding on top of that, and they will start sort of adding itself out as well. You can play around with that, and that's a nice way to sort of create some nice, nicely, neatly laid out frames to display the widgets that you like. Okay, so now that we have a understanding of a frame, what you can do is also start creating multiple frames and actually have a bit of a navigation system. So for example, I can create a second frame over here. And let's just make sure that these two frames are the exact same size. And it's a nice idea to actually start naming these just so that we know exactly which frame is which. So we're navigating and controlling and selecting the correct object as well. So this one I'm going to call the dashboard, and the other one is called home. So I've got control home and control dashboard. And let me just move this over here. So I have some content over here on this side. We then want to just add a little push button here, and equally another push button over here, just so that there are two push buttons. This one, I'm going to change this to, say, dashboard. And this one will say home. And let's look for a nice, pretty icon. A settings icon for the going to the dashboard, and then a home icon to go home. Cool. So now we've designed how they look like. We now need to add the logic of what happens when we press that button. And that logic is basically we're just going to select this button. And when we are pressing on that and that button is being triggered, what we want to do is do a navigate to. And we want to then say we want to navigate to the control dashboard. So I can type dashboard. So this is the control dashboard that I want to navigate to. Right. Dashboard, and we just want to select that. And equally, I can just copy this action here. And for here, we can just paste that action, link that up. So we're again doing a navigate to, but here this time we're doing a control home. And we're just going jump to control home. Cool. So now that those logic have been added, we can then start and test that out. So we've opened up the this little board player. This is a quick test. So when we click on this, we jump over to this view, which is the control dashboard, like here. And then I can also just have a button to go back home. So that's a nice way that you can then actually start designing different views and different frames, and you can then actually start doing a bit of navigation and creating a bit of a menu to jump between different things. So you can have different views, different pages to do different things that you need. Instead of just building frames that are just directly swapping the entire page, here we've got another just a pre-built demo project here. What is just trying to explain what's going on here is that over here on the left-hand side, or on this main page, we have sort of the basic menu screen, and you just don't want to, let's say, keep making these duplicates on multiple pages. And what you want to do is literally just selecting the different options, and then over here on the right-hand side of your frame, what you want to do is just swap in the different pages that you need. So these over here on the side of the frame, on the artboard, are the different frames that we're just swapping in and out. So as you can see, when I'm clicking on this, the right-hand side is changing, but the left-hand side is basically staying stationary, which is nice, so that like if, for an instance, that you start building out this a little bit more and you suddenly decide that, hey, I need to create an extra new section or new tab, let's say, then I just need to add this once, and then all of the other pages are not really affected, and they're not. I don't have to go in and make duplicates. Let's say if I'm just doing like a direct frame swapping, which is sort of the navigate to, which was I was showing before. Um, this is then using a slightly different logic, which is called show frame, and I can decide I want to show another frame, and you would then define which area and how big that frame is going to load. And this is then a nice way to just start breaking up your sort of design and user interface and sort of reuse certain elements that are global and that you can just build once, and then other areas can just sort of swap in and out. So that's another way of sort of building out the overall user interface, and you can then sort of build these like mini applications based on the artboards, frames, and widgets that we provide.